we have more than 1,200 patents from the center. We do around 100 plus every year.
Wow.
We have the largest infrastructure in the company in Bangalore in terms of the various labs we have. You name a lab, you'll find it in our center.
Do you hold a Guinness record for these
We
patents?
have. So we are building big models in place, and at some point in time in the future, you will find that when you walk into a hospital as a patient, you would have an avatar greeting you. And the avatar need not be a hospital technologist. It could be your friend, or could be your loved one, could be your spouse, who would be there to talk to you. When I joined GE Healthcare 2 decades ago, maybe a little more than that, I was working in cardiology that time. And I had no idea what cardiology was. This is a domain where you can spend your lifetime and still feel you're nowhere close.
So it was like you had a job and you still were interning at a hospital.
Hospital, exactly.
Hello and welcome to Mint Techcetra, where we decode the technology shaping our world. In this episode, we journey into the future of healthcare, one where precision, accessibility, and innovation converge to redefine care. I'm talking about AI-powered imaging, smart diagnostics that work in real time, to data and digital ecosystems working together to revolutionize how healthcare is delivered. Since the rise of AI, India's healthcare sector has seen a steady upward curve, constantly embracing new technologies and pioneering innovative solutions that is transforming healthcare from the ground up, reaching not just big hospitals, but even remote villages. The industry is quietly undergoing a revolution, with India at the center of this change. At the heart of this shift is our guest today, Mr. Girish Raghavan, Vice President of GE Healthcare Technology India and Global CTO for Women's Health and X-ray. With over 30 years of experience and leading the charge at GE Healthcare's largest R&D center globally, Girish sits at the intersection of engineering and medicine, where AI-led innovation meets real-world impact. In our conversation today, we unpack how India is becoming a global powerhouse for healthcare innovation, how AI is not replacing clinicians but amplifying their superpowers, and how multimodal data and human-machine collaboration are rewriting the future of healthcare. One scan, one decision, and one patient at a time. Girish, thank you for joining us here on Mint Techcetra.
Thank you, Nelson. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be having this conversation with you today.
Wonderful. You've been part of GE Healthcare's journey for about 2 decades. Could you share a bit about your journey and what drives your passion for healthcare innovation?
Well, firstly, thank you, Nelson. It's lovely talking to you. Thanks for the time. If you look at my career in the last 2.5 decades, I've been in GE Healthcare and GE. It has been fascinating. I've always had a huge interest towards medicine. Medicine is something which really transforms lives of people. I have seen folks around me whom I have felt medicine had made a huge impact. And that is, it's a wonderful experience. There are only a couple of such domains today which has such a lasting impact on the society, and healthcare is one of them. And if you look at the way medicine has evolved over the last 100, 200 years, it's just unbelievable. If you just go back and see in the 1800s, we had a huge challenge with mortality, right? So if you cross 16 years, you're lucky, right? So those days used to have people used to have more children because you have high mortality rate and people, which is not the case anymore. So if you look at the last 200 years or last 150 years, you have seen the rate has come down drastically, right? Which is a great thing. The second big thing was infections. So we struggled a lot with infections. If you go back to the 1800s, a lot of death happened because of infections, right? Today, infection is no more the largest cause of death today. So infection is unknown. So there's a lot of time in the history of mankind, people do not know why they were dying because infections are not visible, right? So it just goes inside and just attacks you. So there was other big innovation what has happened. But I still think that the two biggest innovations in healthcare has been the discovery of anesthesia and surgery, right? Because if you go back and see like 100 years back or 200 years back, surgery was the last option. And when you don't have anesthesia, just imagine how it will be, right? If you're doing a heart surgery, without having anesthesia. So finding anesthesia made a huge difference, where you can do surgery. Surgery became an option, okay, after the discovery of this. So if you look at the history of how healthcare has evolved, it's so fascinating. And as you grow up in your career, you always, as you're studying and growing up your career, you always found that the impact what healthcare can make is tremendous. And if you look at the last 20 years, I've been in GE Healthcare. I could, in front of my eyes, see how things have transformed. From the early 2000s or late 1990s, healthcare was not affordable, right? Not accessible. I still recall in my early years, PET scans were unknown today in India, were unknown those days in India. Maybe there'll be 2-3 PET scans in the all of country. It was super expensive, not affordable to anybody. But today, you look at this place, we just go around a 5-kilometer radius, you'll find at least 10 PET scans around this place, right? So it has really made, it transformed oncology quite a bit for diagnosing cancer at a much faster pace than what it would be otherwise. So that's one example of oncology. If you take CT scans, for example, 10 years back, 5 years back, CT scans are only for the rich. Today, you can do a head scan with, I would say, 2,000 rupees in India today. It has made it more affordable and accessible. So one is how medicine has evolved with time. Second is the opportunity for you in engineering, being part of the journey to make healthcare affordable and accessible has been very inspiring for me to be part of this. And I feel great as a privilege of being part of this industry.
Beautiful, beautiful indeed, Leknav. Looking at the healthcare landscape in India today, what are the key trends or factors, which are innovating the sector here?
So if you step back and look at the healthcare industry today, if you go to any hospital, the kind of problems you see there are very, very acute, I would say, right? Number one is we see a lot of people, especially in India and in pretty much every part of the world, I would say emerging markets primarily, we are seeing a lot of patients, a lot of people who are coming out of poverty, and with that comes the propensity to pay, right? So they all come into the healthcare ecosystem. And the healthcare systems are not elastic enough to absorb huge volume of people coming into the system. So there's a huge problem today where we don't have enough facilities to take care of all the needs of patients who are coming into the system. So that is definitely a big problem. Second is you're seeing in hospitals across the world, you do see a lot of inefficiency and issues with productivity. So when I say inefficiencies, it's like if you walk into a typical hospital and you sometimes stand a long time for a CT scan, right? Or you want to meet a doctor. I have myself personally experienced where you go at 8 o'clock in the morning and you end up seeing the doctor at 4 o'clock if you're lucky, right? So we are seeing a lot of inefficiency in the hospital ecosystem, both in terms of how you deliver care to the patient, as well as in terms of how the assets what you have in the hospital have been utilized. So there's a lot of focus towards efficiency and productivity in a hospital ecosystem. Third one is availability of, I would say, trained staff to work in the hospital system today, right? So this is an industry which is seeing immense burnouts today, right? It is said that this is an industry where you have 100% attrition every 5 years, okay, which means people just keep rotating every 5 years, right? So the load you see on the technologists in the hospitals are extremely high. So how do you solve that problem? Then there is also the fourth aspect of skill, right? So today, if you want to be in a hospital ecosystem, you should be, if you're a clinician, you should have studied so much, you should have had so much experience. If you're a technologist, you should have had a level of expertise what you have. And we are seeing a major issue with demand versus supply, right? So the burnout aspect combined with the demand versus supply is a huge challenge to the industry. And finally, if you look at the clinicians, right, the doctors, when they study medicine, they always presume that they will spend a lot of time with patients. The reality is that they don't spend as much time as they would love to, because they are actually dragged by bureaucracies in the hospital ecosystem, the reporting, the documentation. It's a lot of work. So that actually creates a bit of frustration for them because they would love to use their time in a much more efficient manner. So these are broadly the 4 big problems we are seeing today in the healthcare industry. And of course, folks like GE Healthcare are trying to solve those problems and trying to make it much more seamless and effective for our customers.
That's right. So, with that being said, India is clearly a big bet when it comes to healthcare innovations and growth. What makes India such a critical market and innovations hub for GE Healthcare?
Okay. So as far as GE Healthcare is concerned, we came here 35 years back, right? So we are one of the first companies to even foresee the potential this place can bring to the healthcare industry at a broad level. So that is what prompted GE to set up its largest technology center in Bangalore. That's what prompted us to build immense amount of infrastructure here. It prompted us to build the best of the best minds to come over here, right? So why India? Why not somewhere else, right? One, we have perhaps the largest pool of trained technologists in this country than anywhere else in the world. You have the largest English speaking population here in India. You also have a very conducive ecosystem which helps you to thrive. For example, right, we have some of the best medical institutions in the world in India, and the partnership with these institutions actually helps you to leverage the ecosystem and get expertise which you will not get otherwise, right? So if you have seen recently, GE signed a agreement with Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, more focused towards oncology and cancer right?
Research.
So those kind of partnerships do thrive, and that actually helps us quite a bit. And lastly, we have a outstanding academic ecosystem in India, right? We have a lot of engineers, trained engineers, scientists, and so on and so forth. We tap into that ecosystem where we have partnership with some of the best institutions to get talent to come here and work with us. So all these makes it very optimal for GE to set up a large center here in India, and then subsequently when GE Healthcare just continues with the journey from what we started doing the GE days.
So the way I see it is, it's like, innovation from India for the world. Is that how you look at it?
Yeah. So if you look at one of the things which actually gives us an edge is also the whole concept of frugal innovation, right? So GE, I would say India is, as a country, is known for frugal innovation. And a lot of the innovations what we do in India, we realize that it is scalable outside of India as well. We have got ample examples where we started something as a very small thing in a rural setup for India, and we realized very soon, within a matter of years, that there is no reason why the solution will not work in Europe or US, right? And we have scaled solutions quite a bit. That's also driven by the fact that we are one of the most cost-constrained countries in the world today as far as healthcare is concerned. Even today, significant amount of your you pay out of your pocket in a healthcare setup, right? So that puts a lot of constraint both on the hospital ecosystem as well as on patients to make sure that you go for the best and the cheapest options available in the market, and that scales quite a lot as you go outside.
That's right. So moving on, AI, it's no longer a concept anymore. It's actively transforming the healthcare landscape with enabling faster diagnosis and personalized healthcare for patients. How is GE embedding AI to improve patient care and support clinicians?
Yeah. So if you look at GE Healthcare strategy is around what we call D3. So it is about devices, it is about digital, it's about disease. Okay. So we have been making very steady inroads into all these areas. Today, if you take the first D, which is about devices, today our devices are very intelligent, right? Years back, you would have seen that the devices are dumb, right?
True.
Like the car what you used to have, right? In many years back. The driver has to be super smart, right? Driving a car in the 1970s was so complex compared to driving a car in 2025. So making our equipments and devices smarter has been very important for two reasons. One is to democratize healthcare. It also to reduce the skill gap we are seeing in the industry today. So if you take an example of a CT system and you're doing a CT scan and there has been some issue, a patient moved or is not holding his breath.
Right.
Today's systems are so smart, it will tell the technologist, look, the patient is not holding his breath, you should take a retake. So there's a level of intelligence we have built into the system, and it's all thanks to AI, which is deep into these products. So that is one aspect of the device part. The second comes digital, right? So digital is core of whatever we do, right? So in the years ahead, digital will no more be a differentiator. So digital is base. If you have to be in the ring, you have to be digital. So that is the second thing we work after. The third is there are so many issues in this world, right? So we as a company focuses on few clinical care pathways, which is what we call the disease states. One is cardiology and second is oncology. If you look at today, the top two largest cause of death in the world is cardiovascular diseases and cancer. So we are after those two care pathways. And in these two care pathways, our primary goal has been to make sure that we are getting the whole continuum in place, which means right from the time you screen, you diagnose, you treat and monitor. So we want to make sure we are across the entire continuum so that the patient as well as the hospitals get the full comprehensive experience of what a person would go through. And in the middle of all these things, right, whether it's digital device, be it disease state, we are trying to put the patient right in the middle of it. So that makes a big difference as well.
So what exciting possibilities do you see AI, unlocking across the healthcare sector?
So as a company today, we have made a lot of inroads today in the space of AI. Maybe you're aware today that in the medtech space, GE Healthcare has the most number of FDA approved AI applications today. So we are the pioneers today in the space of artificial intelligence in the space of healthcare. So that is great. And this is something which we didn't start yesterday. It has been there for a while, and it has been a very conscious investment from our part to make sure that these technologies evolve and progress. So if you look at the future state today from an AI perspective, first, it is no more going to be a differentiator. I mean, in fact, I would say to a large extent, even now, it's not a differentiator, right? It's just a base. You have to have it. You don't have a choice. Second is AI will play a role in few fronts. One, in a hospital setup, how do you build efficiency? Say today, if you go to a large hospital, you will have, if I take an enterprise hospital, you have hundreds of CTs and X-rays in multiplicity. It's a fleet of systems, right? So how do you have a mechanism to track such a huge fleet of systems, look at the productivity, efficiency, making decisions of a capital allocation, okay? So there's a lot of analytics you need to build, which will help you to give good insights based on which you can make decisions on equipment purchase and efficiency aspects of it. So that is definitely one area where AI is playing a huge role today, and GE is leading big time there through multiple solutions what we have delivered today in the market. The second one we are going to see more and more is how do you give clinical confidence to a clinician? So one of the big challenges we are seeing today, I'm sure you would have seen this as well in your personal experiences. You go to firstly we go to the best doctor. So there are 5 doctors. And if you have somebody known to you who has got a heart problem, hypothetically, you go to and take ECGs and echographs, and you do angioplasty, angiogram. You got a bunch of medicines, right? You got histopathology report. You have all the reports, and you want to go to that particular doctor, right? And there'll be 5 other doctors you have a choice to go through, but you want that specific doctor. And you give the file to him. He hardly spends maybe 3 minutes, if you're lucky, maybe 2 minutes, just looking at the pages. And he is able to, in his mind, absorb so much information, do triangulation, correlate things together, and have a recommendation for you based upon what he sees in the 3 minutes, right?
That's right.
And in his mind, he's trying to correlate the medicine what he gave, the blood tests what he has taken, right? The scans what has been done 6 months back, the scan which you took today, looks at the angiogram and looks at your heart, and in his mind is just doing all these things. It's intelligence, right? And your recommendation. Okay, why Dr. A and why not Dr. B, right? That intelligence, what this guy does in 3 minutes is more worthwhile than another doctor who spends maybe 30 minutes looking at the same report, right? That is the power of the intelligence and experience what this doctor has built over the years, or the clinician has built over the years. Now, what we are trying to do as a company is to democratize that, right? How do we make sure that the second doctor, Dr. B, has the same amount of information and same level of insights through which he can make decisions in a more effective manner, like Dr. A would have done, right? So we use AI there quite a bit, right? The simple aspect of aggregating data from totally different data source, be it a genomic system or a histopathology system or imaging system, putting them together, correlating them together, and giving insights to a clinician who looks at it and makes decision is something very compelling today. And AI plays a huge role over there, right, in providing clinical confidence. And as you do this more and more, you realize that the huge need today we see of patients from rural places coming to large cities will also go down. Okay, because you get the same kind of experience being there, right? So that is where you'll find AI playing a big role. The third thing is from a clinician standpoint itself, right? You'll find that clinicians are having a lot of burnouts, right? They're tired. They sit in a dark room, especially people who are reading images, right? You do 100 images in a day. By evening, you're done. So how can AI help to prioritize it, right? How can AI come and tell you? So, for example, if a clinician is spending, say, I'm making it up, 2 minutes or 1 minute on a CT scan, if AI can work on that CT scan or a PET scan and help you to identify and say, looks like this is a lesion, maybe you should look at it. Just putting a round around it just makes a big difference. A circle around it makes a big difference, right? And you do it systematically. It's forcing the clinician to look at that circle, and he may discard it saying it's normal, but it's forcing function. So AI is actually a huge assist tool for clinicians to build productivity and efficiency. There's a high chance he will miss it completely, and 6 months later, the next scan, it will come as something big. And you'll realize, I should have found this 6 months back. It is a miss from my end, right? So you can see AI plays a role in terms of clinician efficiency, in patient experience, in staff experience. For even another example today, if you look at our systems, what we have in GE, like a CT or an MR, you have a patient on the table. There's back-to-back patients coming, right? You have 20 patients a day. You have a patient on the table. There's a technologist who has a file with him. He opens the file. He sees the patient's name. He sees that the clinician's recommendation saying, I want to do I would say head and neck scan. Firstly, handwriting will be very difficult to read. He might have a question on what kind of head and neck scan I should take. He calls up the clinician. He's busy, right? But he has a patient on the table. So we're trying to solve those problems by having an intelligent system where the system would recommend to the technologist. See, I see this patient on the table. This patient is an obese patient. He's 95 kgs weight. I looked at his records. I know the clinician's recommendation. Based upon all I'm seeing, I am recommending these 3 choices for you. You pick up what is the most relevant for them, right? So that is the kind of assist tool we are giving for technologists to become more efficient as well. And we are also going one step ahead, saying based upon what I choose today, I will put it back in the system, and it brings more learning. So the system keeps learning itself every time. So it's all about making it more efficient and productive as we go forward.
Yeah, it's incredible to see, the way AI is not just speeding things up, in fact, it's reach also, like you mentioned, the rural aspect of it, where the resources are really limited. But now with all of these things coming up, smart tech and, all these technologies that's evolving, there's a gold mine of data that is being generated, and healthcare is generating more than enough of it. What kind of doors does this open when it comes to diagnosing and treating patients better?
Yeah. So it is true that we have lots of data. The unfortunate thing is around 95 to 97% of the data is not even used today, right? So we have a lot of data, but what you're seeing today is with the 3% data what we have today. So the potential what you'll have when you can even get to say 10% data or 20% data is going to be tremendous. So the data part is something we are yet to unlock, because it's not just data. You get the data, you have to curate it, you have to label, you have to annotate it. There's a lot of work you should do to make the data usable. Otherwise, it's just data is data, right? It doesn't make any sense. So that part is one aspect. Second big issue we're seeing today, which is actually a hindrance to data, is about privacy, right?
That's right.
Healthcare is one of those segments where privacy is
Can't take it lightly.
super important, right? So people don't want to take a risk. You want consent. There are guidelines. You've got GDPR regulations in certain parts in Europe, for example. So you have to adhere to that. So privacy becomes all the more important, right? So I was talking to somebody recently, and he was telling me that it was just a call to a bank for something, and within few minutes he got calls from other banks, asking him why you need to take something take a particular service from me. He was like amazed. I just spoke 2 minutes back. Within that time frame, you have people from other banks calling and saying that why don't you look at me, right? So data, right? So people are worried about privacy. It's a cyber security is another big area. So with healthcare data being available, it's very highly possible that somebody can hack it, manipulate it, and give outcomes which are very different from what it's intended for, right? That's why you'll see in a lot of these huge hospitals where a lot of VIPs go there. the data is highly protected. Because it's possible somebody can.
So you're saying these data are all localized? It's a data center that is a localized data?
Yeah. In some of these cases, because data security becomes all the more important, right? So there are a lot of guidelines around that, on how data is secured and how it is taken care. Okay. So yeah, so the data becomes, so if you can unlock the potential of data, the kind of healthcare delivery what you can give is going to be at a different level. But we're unfortunately really far away from that.
From data. So I mean, so you're saying, so is there a level of encryption that is there locally on all these devices?
Yes.
How is it?
So today the way it works is, it is as a provider we have those technologies in the system, but more importantly, hospital systems also have very high bar. So when data leaves the hospital premise, there's a lot of ifs and buts and controls in place. In pretty much all the big hospitals I've seen, the controls are very high, right? That's why you'll see that if you want to take a report out, there are a lot of checks and balances, patient consent, and so on and so forth. So even within a hospital network, I've seen hospitals where you do encryption even between two servers in the same hospital.
Oh, wow.
There is a level of encryption I've seen in certain places. You want to do security between two nodes.
Just two nodes, yeah.
Just to make sure that
It's
within that
encrypted,
something
true,
cannot go on, right? But one thing for sure is, when a data leaves an hospital's perimeter, there are a lot of controls in place, and security becomes all the more important.
That's right. You know, the idea of bringing together all these varied data points together to see the full picture, you know, I mean, it really feels like the future is truly personalized. Of healthcare, it's very personalized. Now, speaking of innovation, you know, I mean, Bangalore's fast becoming the heartbeat of health tech. And GE Healthcare's Healthcare Technology Center India, HTCI, is right at the center of it. Could you tell us more about the scale of work happening at HTCI, and how is it shaping innovations in India and around the world?
Okay. Yeah, firstly, we have been around for the last 30 plus years as being the technology hub of technology innovation for GE Healthcare as a company. And we have matured a lot, right? We started 30 years back. Obviously, we are much more mature today. So if you look at this center, we have more than 1,200 patents from the center. We do around 100 plus every year.
Wow.
We have the largest infrastructure in the company in Bangalore in terms of the various labs we have. You name a lab, you'll find it in our center.
Do you hold a Guinness record for these patents?
Yeah, we have lots. We have lots of labs, because the reason is that we do so much of high-end and cutting-edge work. We ended up building a lot of infrastructure in-house so that the teams can innovate at a much faster pace. So just making sure that you have everything what it takes to, because one of the things in innovation is to have less constraints. With constraints comes challenges, right? So you try to remove constraints by giving whatever the teams want so that they can do more efficient. So, and we are largest pool of technologists. We have been about 30 years. We have delivered more than 130 products and solutions from the center for the global market and the local market. I mentioned about patents. Right? So that's how our journey has been over the last several years. Now, coming to the technology aspect of it. So today within our company, in our technology center, we look at two aspects. One is, how do we focus on certain care pathways, right? Oncology is definitely one big space we are focusing on, and we look at the entire continuum to see how to make it efficient. We also work on devices, smart devices, I would say, on the CTs and MRs and the X-rays and so on and so forth. We work on monitoring solutions, right? So over the years, we have built high domain and high technical skills on these areas, which actually helps us to deliver for the global market.
So you talk about, building new systems. What about these legacy systems? Are you doing any kind of backward compatibility? So, because most of these rural places still use legacy systems and things like
that. So one of the philosophies of the company, and it's also driven by regulations in some part of the world, is to make sure that when you have a healthcare device provided, you have to service it for a period of time, and it changes from country to country. So we actually have a longer period of time. We service the product. So even if a product goes to tier 3 cities, there is a level of commitment from the company to make sure you take care of the products for a long period of time. And then technology changes, obviously, right? Today you can't get an ambassador car, right? And if you get the car and a part fails, you just can't even replace the part because the parts are not available anymore. to large extent, right? So similarly, we also have those challenges. You buy products, you do it for 20, 30 years of engineering, and the parts would become obsolete. You don't have those parts available to replace it. So we have many options. One of the options is we have upgrades options available. Okay, we have options that we just go and tell the customer, okay, you have this product now. This is an upgrade kit. What you have, if you put this, you get the same level of technology. Like for example, analog, right? So we had analog X-rays for a long period of time.
That's right.
Today it's all digital. Today I don't think in big cities people don't even go to an analog X-ray system. So we have upgrade kits. How do you have a digital analog system? Add the kit, you get a digital system. So all these actually adds value for the hospital in terms of the life cycle cost. So we look at that as well. So options, upgrades. There are a lot of places where we say it is fully obsolete, replaces a new system. And during the period when we are servicing the product, we have constant patches we give cybersecurity fixes. So that it just keeps on evolving with time.
It's more like, like these days when we pick up our phones, we go to a store and replace it for a newer phone like that. It is something of that sort. That's right. So, with all this innovations and, thing that you do, India is also a home to a rich pool of tech talent. What are the challenges and opportunities that you see, in honing future-ready healthcare team?
I would say the most positive thing is that the pool of engineers. We have the largest pool of engineers today. Especially look at Bangalore as an example. We have a lot of software talent over here. Okay, that is a big strength for us. So for us, the demand-supply equations are pretty optimized from that standpoint. That also enables a lot of companies globally also to come and set up the shops here because you have a huge talent of pool available. And generally, in India, the engineering mindset is very high. So that also gives us a big edge here. The challenge for us today, if you ask me, so pool talent is well-known thing. Our biggest challenge is how do we convert an engineer to a healthcare engineer? Okay, so we always strive for that. When a person joins us, right, the person could join us either through an early talent program, right? So we work with the universities, as I mentioned. We hire people from there. They go through a program with us, and they become engineers. And then they come and work in the system. So our biggest, what we strive the most is to how to shorten that space and quickly convert a software engineer to a healthcare engineer.
Oh, wow,
okay. And if we can do that, I think we are done. Right?
So they have any special training that you
so we actually, first is the purpose, right? We have a very compelling purpose, right? To take healthcare to places where it has never been so far, right? So one is the purpose is very compelling, and a lot of people get attracted to the purpose because you can really make a change in your society through the healthcare. The second thing we do is when a person joins us, we put them through a clinical care pathway training in most cases, right? They go to a hospital, they spend a couple of days there. The clinicians coming to our center, spending time with them. So we try to tell them how oncology works, what is behind the scene, okay? And we try to impress upon the fact that there are so many challenges in front of us, and you as engineer, you have a good opportunity in front of you to solve some of these very compelling problems today. And engineers like to solve problems. That is their DNA, right? So people love it, and then they want to make a transformation in their career.
So you're saying that, engineers, they wouldn't require any kind of, medical kind of background or anything? It's just a switch, plug and play, like,
Yeah, what we do in our case is, in most cases when people join us, we put them through a clinical training. Okay, they go to, for example, when I joined GE Healthcare 2 decades ago, maybe a little more than that, I was working in cardiology that time, and I had no idea what cardiology was, right? So I used to go to a hospital in Bangalore every Saturday and spend a couple of hours.
Wow.
Okay. I did for 3-4 months. The kind of learning you get from that is tremendous. You get to know how they work, what challenges they face. We feel our work is stressful. You go to a hospital, you'll feel that you're lucky, right? Highly stressed, your patient on the table. It's a question of life and death, high risk space. You just go there, observe, and you get to understand the life of a technologist or a clinician in a hospital on a day. I used to go on Saturdays, and at some point I used to start having lunch with them on every Saturday.
Wow.
And the kind of stories they narrate to me at lunch were all very fascinating. It just reinforced the fact that this is a domain where you can spend your lifetime and still feel you're nowhere close.
So it was like you had a job and you still were interning at a hospital.
Exactly.
That's a word. Finally, on to our last question, Girish. as we all know and we've discussed, AI, it really holds great potential. And but when it comes to health, like you mentioned, security and everything is really important. But trust and that human touch is very important. How do you ensure that AI solutions are safe, reliable, and trusted by patients and clinicians alike?
Yeah. So on the question of trust, it is a very very important point. We have heard of customers and patients talk about it. We see a lot of discussions about trust in the industry and outside the industry as well, because at the bedrock of healthcare, innovation and delivery is trust. It is trust what the clinicians would have on what they use. Today, to a large extent, when clinicians are using any product or solution, they trust the solution what they have. They don't start with a suspicion. That puts a lot of accountability on us. Today, as a company and generally in the industry, we are seeing a lot of focus towards ethical AI, responsible AI, and so on and so forth. We as a company have a very high bar. We have a huge framework put in place on how we should deliver AI, because we are super conscious of how it gets delivered and making sure we have the right desired outcomes for the patients and clinicians. So that is very important. We're also seeing a lot of startups today who do come to clinicians and ask them, they have some wonderful solutions, great models built, they have good claims in place in a very narrow space, but still the clinicians would go back and tell, why don't you go to a GE Healthcare and come through them, because they trust us, right? They trust that our validation frameworks are strong. They trust that when it comes through us, it has got the right level. So a lot of these folks do come to us, and we look at their framework, we understand how they do, and only if it meets our expectations, we take it in a solution. So that's on the trust factor from a clinician standpoint. Then comes the trust from a patient standpoint, right? So patients today, the biggest question in the minds of people is, when AI starts replacing or augmenting a lot of things, would we lose the patient touch, the touch what they get from a clinician? That is the biggest worry. Even today, when we go to a hospital, right, and I have seen my relatives tell me that, the doctor didn't even put a stat on my on my chest. Okay, he didn't even check with me. He didn't even test me, but he has got the echocardiography with him, which is much more than what he can do otherwise, right? But they expect a doctor to come and talk and get the feel. So the biggest concern that people have is, will we lose that touch?
My parents also keep saying the same thing when they go to hospital.
Yeah, that's something they always worry about. They didn't talk to me at all.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that part they're missing. I still recall when my son was born years back. My wife was, as I said, a very anxious mother. She had a big list of questions to ask the doctor, and this doctor was a super busy doctor. He has in his mind maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes per patient.
Correct.
My wife went and started talking to him, asking very basic questions. And at some point, he lost his patient after the third question. He just took the paper, he danced like this, and he said, please go to www. One website, right? And go there and see, you'll find all these questions over there. And that's the last time my wife went to the doctor after that, right? That's personal touch. Matters quite a bit.
True.
So that's a big concern in the industry, is that what would happen to that? If you look at the technology which are evolving today, I think there's a lot of personalization going to come with technology. As an example, today, there are a lot of avatars being developed thanks to the concepts of foundational models, large language models, and VLMs, which many companies are developing, and GE Healthcare is a pioneer in that space as well. So we are building big models in place, and at some point in time in the future, you will find that when you walk into a hospital as a patient, you would have an avatar greeting you. And the avatar need not be a hospital technologist. It could be your friend, or could be a loved one, could be a spouse, who would be there to talk to you. It's very self-assuring when you're going to a hospital. You have somebody who's known to you standing there. It's an avatar. But that is, it will bring some kind of personalization. We're also seeing in the whole space of personal medicine, we're also seeing a lot of customization being done based upon the person's interest and aspects, right? For example, you will see when a child goes for a CT scan, right? The system in the future would be able to change itself such a way that the child feels at ease. It's personalized to the child's interest. The child has got a Mickey Mouse as an example, or something like that. The system would accordingly start. You have a Mickey Mouse as an avatar coming and talking to the child and saying, don't worry, right? Hold your breath at this point in time. Okay, and yeah, those kind of things are going to happen. So to summarize, we look at we as a company, our focus on ethical AI, on responsibility is very high. We have big frameworks in place. We are building some of them. We've got some frameworks in place, and we are advancing on that, which will give confidence to the clinicians. On the technology side, we are also focusing on building the foundational technology blocks, which would make the interaction very personal for a clinician, for a patient in the years ahead. So the future looks very bright. The opportunity what AI is going to bring in is going to be tremendous. Without doubt, the healthcare delivery of the future will be very different from what you see today. And I think we have a lot more to see in the next 2 decades.
That brings us to the end of this insightful conversation. Thank you, Girish, for getting us this great behind-the-scene look at how GE Healthcare works and helping us understand the technologies that truly impact life.
Thank you, Nilsson. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you sharing your time with us today. From AI helping detect cancer early to ultrasound tools designed for areas without specialists, today's discussion shows how healthcare innovation is happening not just in labs, but right here in Bangalore, reaching communities across India and beyond. If this episode made you think differently about healthcare, please subscribe. We have more thoughtful conversations coming your way. Until next time, stay curious, stay well, and thank you for joining me here on Mint Techcetra. I'm your host, Nelson John, signing off.